The COVID-1984 pandemic, a truther summary. There has been a general distrust for the government and media for quite some time. Why are so many people suddenly trusting the same sources? We were initially told 2 weeks. Here we are 3 months later, and many small businesses remain closed, in a financial downward spiral. We somehow agreed to give them an inch based on fear, and now they want a mile. This video is a summary of the current situation from a truther's perspective. It is geared to show you terms, topics, and opinions from credible independent journalists and alternative news sources. It represents the viewpoint of most, but not all, truthers. Nobody knows the whole truth about all of this, but most of us can at least acknowledge that something shady is going on. It is up to you to do further research, and it is up to we the people to retain our freedoms and constitutional rights. Terminology and buzzwords. There are some humorous, underground terms for the virus. First and foremost, COVID-1984, named after George Orwell's 1949 novel titled 1984. Said novel is very telling in these times. There's also coronavirus and the Holocaust. Social distancing. Staying 6 feet apart to be safe from contracting the alleged virus. Masks, or as I like to call them, masks, seems to be a broad definition defined as something that covers your nose and mouth. The cliche belief is that your mask protects me and my mask protects you. Many people have made a mockery of it by wearing Halloween masks, handkerchiefs, homemade MacGyvered protections, and recently, a man even wore his KKK hood to the grocery store. That didn't go over well. Contact tracing. It's a very hot topic right now. Definition: process of identification of a person who may have come in contact with an infected person and subsequent collection of further information about these contacts. The term actually dates back to 1931. Many people are currently being hired as contact tracers all over the country. This terminology isn't going away anytime soon. It should be strictly monitored as it is a danger to our privacy and freedoms. The ID 2020 Alliance provides funding and other forms of material support for high-impact and high-quality digital identity projects that are privacy-protecting, user-centric, and designed for scale, impact, and replicability. That's the flowery definition from Snopes, but we all know it's a lot more than that. Microsoft and the Rockefeller Foundation are the founding partners of the ID 2020 Alliance, and we all know how they have their hands in everything right now. Biometric tattoos, wearable technology that can be wired for many purposes. Another broad definition that doesn't tell us anything even close to what something is. Okay, this is my local Chinese restaurant. I like to call this Project Overkill. As you can see, they've pretty much made a bubble house, preventing any of their air from mingling with our air. This is the pay here area. On the right picture here, there's a slider that you can't really see in this picture, but I took these pictures very quickly, so no one saw me take them. But so you put your money there after you confirm your order. They they slide it over, quickly take your money, quickly slide that back shut, go over here to the cash register, do their thing there, come back, slide it open, quickly slide out your change, quickly shut it. At which time they go over here to the left picture to the pick up here area, and they'll slide that open from their side, place your food in there, quickly slide it shut, at which time you can open up this cabinet and take your food. I don't know if they did this because so many COVIDiots believe C-19 came from China, or if they just really wanted to go above and beyond. Thank you. Come again. Moving on. Microchips and microchipping. This is another popular topic of discussion in recent times. Normally implanted into one's hand. Bill Gates is all about this. He'd microchip and vaccinate the worldwide population if he could. Well, maybe not the entire population. Let's say 7 out of 7.6 billion. Operation Warp Speed. This is a public-private partnership to facilitate, at an unprecedented pace, the development, manufacturing, and distribution of CV-19 countermeasures. So they're trying to force this vaccine through, get it manufactured as soon as possible. We need to get everyone vaccinated here. I got the state's phases for reopening. These are color-coded levels. So you have red, yellow, and green. We're all pretty up to speed on this. I'm not going to get into detail. In short, red, pretty much most things are at a stop, and green is definitely not all systems go. That's a deceiving color right there. Martial law. Imposition of direct military control of normal civilian functions by a government, especially in a response to temporary emergencies such as invasion or major disaster, or in an occupied territory. It involves a suspension of ordinary law. This has been mentioned and feared a lot in recent times. Richie from Boston has many current videos on this topic, including the mass movement of military vehicles all over the U.S. Since this all started. You have the new normal, the concept that we're all supposed to accept new tyrannical rules and guidelines as part of our everyday normal life. Wuhan, China, the alleged origin of the CV-19. You got truther or truth seeker, and from Urban Dictionary is the best definition I could find. It says a now stereotypical, thereby ad hominem label for an individual who is skeptical about certain world events. In short, it's a current, more favorable term for a conspiracy theorist. And if you don't think, at least question some stories and events, then the hidden hands at play have you hook, line, and sucker. Controlled opposition. It's a protest movement that is actually being led by the government agents. Nearly all governments in history have employed this technique to trick and subdue their adversaries. That's also from Urban Dictionary because, well, you're not going to find words like truther, truth seeker, and controlled opposition in Merriam-Webster. Notably, Vladimir Lenin, who said the best way to control the opposition is to lead it ourselves. See also shill, which is an individual, that's part of controlled opposition, or they themselves are controlled opposition. Basically, it's some truth mixed in with a lot of misdirection, hence indicating that they are controlled. Alright, let's take a look at the parties involved or potentially involved. The New World Order. The belief that a handful of elitists control the masses through media, banking, education, etc. There are many players, not just one person, family, group, or entity. Deep State. The Deep State is a conspiracy theory which suggests that collusion and cronyism exists within the political elected government. That's an oxymoron if I've ever seen one. It's like saying dry water. Legitimately elected government. The Mainstream, which at times I'll refer to as MSM. Term and abbreviation used to refer collectively to the various large mass news media that influence many people and both reflect and shape prevailing currents of thought, shaping popular opinion. CBS was busted at least twice so far. They showed an Italian hospital as if it was the U.S. hospital, and there was a first-hand testimony that a CV-19 testing line was staged. They were paid workers, and no one in the long line was actually tested. It was all there for filming purposes. In short, they cannot be trusted. See the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012 and Project Mockingbird. We'll be discussing them down the road. The overwhelming majority of mainstream news is scripted. I'm talking about all mainstream networks, and yes, that includes Fox. The CIA, or Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA actually created the term conspiracy theory or conspiracy theorists in the mid-1960s to discredit anyone who questioned the JFK assassination. From that point forward, the MSM has continuously utilized these terms to shun anyone who counters their reports. The CIA always plays a role. In this case, we just don't know what the role is or how much of a role. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The agency's primary purpose is to coordinate the response to a disaster that has occurred in the U.S. and that overwhelms the resources of local and state authorities. When a national state of emergency is declared, the president essentially relinquishes control of the country to FEMA. Right after the declaration, the presidential seal went missing from the podium at the White House press briefings for a short time. Several sources reported this, and it returned shortly thereafter. I remember right before declaring a national state of emergency, Trump saying, "I just hope what I'm about to do is the right decision." When he said that, I'm not going to lie, it kind of scared me. WHO, World Health Organization, or World Hell Organization. Per WHO, their primary role is to direct international health within the United Nations system and to lead partners in worldwide health responses. CDC, or Center for Disease Control. Johns Hopkins University, private, well-known and respected university in Baltimore, Maryland. The WHO, CDC, and Johns Hopkins University are at the forefront of the rules, guidelines, and statistics for the virus. Rockefeller Foundation, private foundation based in New York City, established by the sixth-generation Rockefeller family, affiliated with Big Pharma and companies who manufacture vaccinations, is also known to be in favor of population control. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, purpose, education and healthcare, founded in 2000, largest private foundation in the world at approximately $48.6 billion. They too are affiliated with Big Pharma and companies who manufacture vaccinations, although Bill and Melinda do not vaccinate their own children. That's interesting. They are the number 2 financial contributor to WHO after the US and contribute more than the next 8 countries combined. Like the Rockefeller Foundation, Gates is also in favor of population control, or depopulation if you would. Multiple pictures of Gates show a book in his personal collection titled How to Lie with Statistics. He's plugged this book several times. I'll show you one of those pictures in a moment. I highly recommend that you all check out the Corbett Report's 4-part series on Bill Gates. There's a link in the description. It's 2 hours total, 4 30-minute videos. Once you've watched them, you'll be more informed on the Gates than anyone within the mainstream. George Soros, Hungarian-American billionaire investor and philanthropist. He is a well-known supporter of progressive and liberal political causes, to which he dispenses donations through his foundation, the Open Society Foundations. That's according to Wikipedia, and his net worth in February of 2018 was approximately $8 billion. Dr. Fauci. In a January 2017 speech, he warned the Trump administration about the inevitability of a surprise outbreak. Quote, "The thing we're extraordinarily confident about is that we're going to see this in the next few years," end quote. Wouldn't you know it, 2017 plus a few years is 2020. Here's a picture of Bill Gates I was telling you about. Right here on top, this was from an article where he recommends 7 books to read for the summer. And right at the top, How to Lie with Statistics. All right, constitutional rights, relevant acts, and Operation Mockingbird. First Amendment, freedom of religion has been impacted. Can't go to church. Most churchgoers have been watching Mass on television. Freedom of speech, press and assembly, also part of this. Social distancing and rules enforcing fewer people in an area limit our right to assemble and protest. Google and YouTube have been filtering searches to display mainstream content and debunking of alternative news first, and they're removing content if it goes against WHO guidelines or recommendations. Second Amendment, right to keep and bear arms. Many people don't realize that the reasoning for this amendment is to protect us from government tyranny. It wasn't created for hunters. Fourth Amendment, right to privacy and freedom from unreasonable intrusions by the government. The channel High Impact Vlogs and the website highimpactflix.com, flicks with an X, has made many videos related to the infringements of our Fourth Amendment rights. There's a link to his channel in the description. The USA Patriot Act. It was enacted on October 26, 2001, shortly after 9/11. This was the start of the end of true privacy. At that time, the majority of people were very angry and at the same time wanted safety. House Bill H.R. 6666, the CV-19 Testing, Reaching, and Contacting Everyone, or TRACE Act. This is them trying to push through strict enactment and oversight of contact tracing. HIPAA Privacy Act. Per CDC guidelines, if you have a medical condition, you do not have to wear a mask, and an establishment cannot ask you to produce evidence of such. Requiring you to provide evidence would be a HIPAA violation. There's a link to a mask exemption flyer in the description. All you have to say is, I have a medical condition, which we all do. We need clean, fresh air to be healthy. It's called hypoxia. Note, however, that privately owned stores have the right to refuse you business regardless of this. ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination based on disability. If a business not privately owned refuses you business after stating that you have a medical condition, it could be an ADA violation. HR 5736, this is one that not enough people know about. Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. This act is from May of 2012, was passed in 2013. It removed a prior protection we had and now allows the government to utilize media sources to promote their agenda. That's correct. There's a link to this act in the description. Operation Mockingbird, a large-scale program of the US CIA that began in the early 1950s and attempted to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. It funded student and cultural organizations and magazines as front organizations. Many people feel this is still going on today, and a retired CIA operative openly admitted that he believes the same. We are now going to take a look at two videos evidencing utilization of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act and Operation Mockingbird. First, let's watch the MSM, including Fox, using the same script.
Filled up your gas tank lately, then you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
You don't need us to tell you gas prices are back on the rise.
But you don't need us to tell you that gas prices are back on the rise.
Who are you really shopping for this holiday season? It's okay, you can admit it if you've bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
Well, it's okay. You can admit it if you have bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay. You can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay, you can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or maybe 10 for yourself.
It's okay. You can admit it if you bought maybe an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay.
You can admit it.
If you've bought an item or two or 10 for yourself.
It's okay. You can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself.
It's okay. You can admit it if you bought an item or 2 or 10. Say for yourself.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities,
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Fascinating, isn't it? Don't think it's just the mainstream, folks. Here are some of our world leaders also reading from the same script.
Diagnostics, treatment, and a safe and effective vaccine.
COVID-19 diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccines.
Largement du développement et du déploiement rapide de diagnostics, vaccins et traitements efficaces.
Universal access to vaccination, treatment and diagnostics.
Equitable access to new COVID diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccine.
We must all work together on improving diagnostics, accelerating therapies, and ultimately developing a vaccine.
We need to make vaccines, treatment, and diagnostics accessible to everyone.
Vaccines, treatments, and diagnosis will be the most effective way to do it.
We need new diagnostics, vaccines, treatments, and an equal distribution to all.
On equitable access to diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines.
And affordability of the vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics.
In order to develop adequate treatments and vaccine.
Let's take a look at some potential hidden agendas. Election year. This is not the reason. It wouldn't be worldwide if it was connected to our election. This is much bigger. More governmental control. The more fear they strike into us, the more control they have. Less privacy and fewer rights. A one-world government or New World Order. Forced inoculations / vaccinations. We're seeing the potential for this increase weekly. Agenda 21. This was signed in 1992. Formation of a totalitarian world government. A comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally in every area from which humans impact on the environment. Lockstep, per a Rockefeller Foundation document from 2010, which we will now go over. All right, here it is. Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development by the Rockefeller Foundation. And as you can see on the next page, it's from May 2010. Here is the section titled Lockstep, a world of tighter top-down governmental control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. The pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain, originating from wild geese, see, they always use some type of an animal, like right now is a bat as the origin, was extremely virulent and deadly. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. International mobility and both people and goods screeched to a halt, debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. Even locally, normally bustling shops and office buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. The pandemic blanketed the planet. Although Disproportionate numbers died in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Central America, where the virus spread like wildfire in the absence of official containment protocols. But even in developed countries, containment was a challenge. The United States' initial policy of strongly discouraging citizens from flying proved deadly in its leniency, accelerating the spread of the virus not just within the U.S., but across borders. However, a few countries did fare better, China in particular. The Chinese government's quick imposition and enforcement of mandatory quarantine for all citizens, as well as its instant and near hermetic sealing off of all borders, saved millions of lives, stopping the spread of the virus far earlier than in other countries and enabling a swifter post-pandemic recovery. China's government was not the only one that took extreme measures to protect its citizens from risk and exposure. During the pandemic, national leaders around the world flexed their authority and imposed airtight rules and restrictions, from the mandatory wearing of face masks to body temperature checks at the entries to communal spaces like train stations and supermarkets. Even after the pandemic faded, this more authoritarian control and oversight of citizens and their activities stuck and even intensified. In order to protect themselves from the spread of increasingly global problems, from pandemics and transnational terrorism to environmental crises and rising poverty, leaders around the world took a firmer grip on power. At first, the notion of a more controlled world gained wide acceptance and approval. Like right now, citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. Citizens were more tolerant and even eager for top-down direction and oversight, and national leaders had more latitude to impose order in the ways they saw fit. In developed countries, the heightened oversight took many forms: biometric IDs for all citizens, for example, and tighter regulation of key industries whose stability was deemed vital, or maybe you call it essential, to national interests. In many developed countries, enforced cooperation with a suite of new regulations and agreements slowly but steadily restored both order and, importantly, economic growth. Top-down authority took different forms in different countries, hinging largely on the capacity, caliber, and intentions of their leaders. But more authoritarian leadership worked less well, and in some cases tragically, in countries run by irresponsible elites who use their increased power to pursue their own interests at the expense of their citizens. By 2025, people seem to be growing weary of so much top-down control and letting leaders and authorities make choices for them. Wherever national interests clashed with individual interests, there was conflict. Sporadic pushback became increasingly organized and coordinated, as disaffected youth and people had seen their status and opportunities slip away, largely in developing countries, incited civil unrest. Even those who like the greater stability and predictability of this world began to grow uncomfortable and constrained by so many tight rules and by the strictness of national boundaries. The feeling lingered that sooner or later something would inevitably upset the neat order that the world's governments had worked so hard to establish. All of this from a document 10 years ago. Continuing with potential hidden agendas, digital worldwide currency. One of the many agendas could be to roll out a worldwide digital currency to replace the germ-infested money that we're still using right now. Microchip implants, biometric tattoos, ID 2020. In the future, they might establish social credit scores that will allow or disallow you the opportunity to travel, attend public events, etc. Cryptocurrency patent number WO 2020-060606. This patent is for paying via body motions. Recently went through, funded by Bill Gates, and the patent number conveniently ends in 060606. Really? Population control, depopulation. The following is a direct quote from Bill Gates. Quote, "Now the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's heading up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really good job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%, end quote. In another interview, Gates also admitted that his father used to be the head of Planned Parenthood. Detriment to the middle and lower classes. There have been severe impacts on income, retirement, savings, etc., all detrimental to the lower and the middle class. Little technology here, which we will refer to as GGGGG, has been going on behind the scenes throughout all this, including in our schools. There's a big misconception that truthers believe this technology causes or caused the virus. That is not the case. We're merely saying that the symptoms of EMF radiation are very similar to that of CV-19. Let's now move on to predictive programming. This is an article from osu.edu, The Psychology of Extraordinary Beliefs. Predictive programming is a theory that government or other higher-ups are using fictional movies or books as a mass mind control tool to make the population more accepting of planned future events. This was first described and proposed by researcher Alan Watt, who defines predictive programming as: predictive programming is a subtle form of psychology conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes and to be implemented by our leaders. If and when these changes are put through, the public will already be familiarized with them and will accept them as natural progressions, thus lessening possible public resistance and commotion. Then it was popularized by Alex Jones and David Icke. The most notable cases of predictive programming are the examples found in The Simpsons, The Dark Knight Rises, The Hunger Games, and the oldest being From Futility. Information can be found on blog posts, and many conspiracy theorists have even made videos on it or have spoken on the subject. People who believe in this theory are mostly conspiracy theorists who think there will be a totalitarian government takeover. Who would think something like that? Or on the more mild side, theorists who believe tragic events are an inside job or completely fake. Personally, I define predictive programming as foreshadowing of major events through various outlets such as books, movies, TV shows, etc. Some examples are right here. 1984, the book we've already mentioned by George Orwell, very relevant and often referenced in recent times. I'll have a link to the black and white movie. It's not great quality, but I'll have a link to that in the description. Got The Simpsons, which we'll take a look at an example of predictive programming on this from The Simpsons here shortly. The Rockefeller Foundation document that we just went over. Event 201. This is something that if you haven't looked into it, you'll want to look into this. It was a pandemic exercise funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Used a coronavirus as the disease, and this event occurred right before the pandemic started. Event 201 website states that the event was on 10/18/2019. How convenient. Pandemic, How to Prevent an Outbreak is a TV series, came out in January right as news was breaking. And you're going to see throughout media outlets the numbers 33, which is Masonic, and 666, which is demonic. They appear time and time again. Bill Gates' Apple One sold for $666.66.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We are here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune.
It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time. That is so...
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So better beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender fiddles. Springfielders are advised to stay tuned for more information if they experience any of the following symptoms: mild thirst, occasional hunger, tiredness at night.
And here's some examples of the number 33 being used time and time again. These examples are all from around when the news was breaking.
Sonic media tipping their hat to their 33 degrees internationally. You can see their numerous again as they get ready to force vaccinate us for their imaginary disease. Meanwhile, the brainless, vaccinated millions will turn and look at the unvaccinated person, claiming that they are causing a risk to them by being unvaccinated, all the while forgetting that if their vaccines really worked at...
All right, now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to get too into the science of everything. Based on my research, however, I feel this whole thing is a hoax. Different strains of influenza and illnesses pop up every year. What makes this situation any different? Many medical opinions and stats support this. Exosome theory versus virus theory. There's a link to a video of this in the description. I highly recommend you all watch it if you haven't already. In short, exosomes and viruses are theory, not fact. The video and the link will show how this is indicative of, it's more indicative of an exosome than a virus. Germ theory, the current accepted scientific theory for many diseases. It states that the microorganisms known as pathogens or germs can lead to disease. These small organisms, too small to see without magnification, allegedly invade humans, other animals, and other living hosts. There's a great video on this titled Corona Debunked by Biochemistry. There's a link in the description for this video as well. Once you watch this video and the exosome versus virus theory video, you should have a firm understanding of how truthers or anyone can consider the virus to be a hoax. The virus has not been isolated, purified, or visualized. How then is there a test for it? Faulty and illegitimate testing. Test kits. There is not a legitimate, accurate test. There is no gold standard. It's very important. If you want to watch a good video on the current accepted test, there's a link for that in the description. Death rate. Many recent statistical sources show the death rate at 0.1 to 0.3%. The majority of those deaths are people with weakened or compromised immune systems. In short, the death rate is immaterial with respect to the whole and does not warrant a shutdown or quarantining. Immune system. The immune system is weakened by lack of fresh air. For example, if you were somehow blocking fresh air with something on your face, that's just one example. It is also weakened by lack of vitamin D, such as sunlight, and loneliness, such as quarantining. So quarantining, loneliness, staying inside, not getting natural vitamin D. Building and strengthening our immune system is very important. Their guidelines are counterproductive. Since we just went over the inaccuracy of testing, let's take a look at a video of the Tanzanian president, one of my new favorite people, giving a speech on faulty testing. This goes to show you that not all countries are corrupt. Pay strict attention to his words.
Tulichukua sample za mbuzi, tukachukua sample za kondoo, tukachukua sample za papai, tukachukua sample za oili ya gari na sample za vitu vingine mbalimbali, tukavipeleka pale kwenye maabara bila wao kujua, na tukazipa majina. Sample ya oili kwa mfano iliyotoka kwa gari tulilipa jina ya Jabiri Hamza mwenye miaka 30, male. Ile ilileta negative. Tulipopeleka sample ya fenesi ambalo tuliipa jina la Sara Samuel miaka 45, female, matokeo yake yalikuwa unconclusive. Tulipopeleka sample ya papai tukaipa jina Elizabeth Anne miaka 26, female, papai lile lilikuwa positive kwamba lina corona. Maana yake maji mle ndani zilizotolewa mle kwenye papai ni positive. Tulipeleka sample ya ndege Kware, imekuwa positive. Tumepeleka sungura, ikawa determinant. Tumechukua mbuzi, akawa positive. Tukachukua kondoo, akawa negative, na kadhalika na kadhalika. Sasa ukishaona umepeleka sample ukamwambia huyu ni binadamu, halafu ikaji ikaletewa positive kwamba ina corona, maana yake labda mapapai yote yale nayo yangewekewa isolation. Ukipeleka mbuzi za sample nazo zikawa positive, maana yake mbuzi wote tulionao hapa labda by assumption, au huyo mbuzi waliopelekwa nao walitakiwa wapewe kwenye isolation. Ukipeleka fenesi likawa positive, makamasi yake yale ambalo tuliyapa jina la Elizabeth, maana yake Elizabeth fenesi, nayo mafenesi yalitakiwa yawekwe isolation. Kwa hiyo ukishagundua kitu hiki, lazima ujue kuna mchezo wa ajabu unafanyika kwenye vipimo hivi, kwamba kuna mambo ya ajabu yanafanywa katika nchi hii. Either wahusika wa laboratory ile wamenunuliwa na mabeberu, either hawana utaalamu, which is not true, kwa sababu maabara hii imetumika sana kwenye magonjwa mengine. Either zile sample zinazoletwa, kwa sababu mpaka reagent zinatoka nje, mpaka zile swap, zile vipamba vya kuweka kwenye nani mle vinatoka nje. Kwa hiyo lazima kuna kitu fulani kinafanywa. Na kama mapapai nayo yanaonekana ni positive, yana corona, basi WHO inatakiwa ifanye kazi kubwa katika haya. Na kama mbuzi nao wana corona, na kama hawajajua hii corona ina affect binadamu au ina affect mbuzi au ina affect hata miti, basi wanasayansi hatujafanya cha kutosha katika hili. Kwa hiyo kuna watu, kutokana na extrapolation ya hizi information nilizonazo, lazima kuna watu wameambiwa positive wakati si wagonjwa wa corona, na inawezekana wengine wakafa kwa hofu. Papai lile lipo halijafa, lipo tu linaiva. Mbuzi yule yupo tu wala hajafa. Fenesi lile lipo, labda lije lioze tu baadaye ya muda wake, lakini yale ni positive na vitu vingine. Kwa hiyo natoa wito kwa Watanzania, msiwe na hofu, na hasa kwa wale ambao bado hawajachoka hata hajaumia. Kwa nini uwe na hofu? Mbona mafua yamekuwepo, ila haya ni mafua ambayo yako advanced, nayo yatapita. Lakini kile kitendo cha kukuta hata papai la kula nalo lina corona mule ndani, wala si kwa ganda kwa juu, kwa sababu zile sample zingechukuliwa kwa juu, wangesema labda aliyeligusa ana corona, lakini wametoa with specifications kabisa vizuri, wakachoma ndani mle, wakaingiza kile kiswapu. Wangeweza wakasema huyu mbuzi labda alishikwa akaingiwa ndani na mtu akampa corona, lakini mbuzi awe na corona, fenesi liwe na corona, papai liwe na corona, ndege kama kwale awe na corona. Ni lazima pawe na maswali mengi ya kujiuliza sisi kama Watanzania, lakini na dunia na Afrika nzima lazima ijiulize vizuri katika tatizo hili la ugonjwa, kwamba kuna kitu fulani ambacho inawezekana hakijaeleweka kwa Watanzania na kwa wanasayansi, lakini inawezekana hata duniani hawajakielewa. Lakini natoa wito kwa wale wanaotumia vifaa hivi, hasa katika Afrika, wachukue sample za wanyama, wachukue sample hata za kitu kichochote, hata liukuta, hata mjusi, wachukue anything, watakuja kuprove haya ninayoyazungumza. Mimi ni mwanasayansi, ninajua ninachokizungumza, na kazi hizi zimefanywa na watu ambao they are really qualified. Kwa hiyo nairudia kuwaeleza Watanzania, bado tuko kwenye elementary stage, tusipaniki, tuendelee kuchapa kazi, uzalishaji uendelee maradufu zaidi, tusitishane, na wanasiasa waache kuitumia hii kama agenda, haitawasaidia. Lakini Watanzania tusikubali kutumika. Corona haiko Tanzania tu, iko kila mahali, iko Marekani, iko Uingereza, iko Uholanzi, iko Sweden, iko everywhere, iko Japani, iko China, iko kila mahali. Sasa wasitumie hii kama base. Kwanza huu ugonjwa wala haukuanzia hapa. Watanzania tusimame imara, tushikamane, tumtangulize Mungu wetu, tuchape kazi, tusiogopane, tusaidiane ili tatizo hili tuondoke. Na wale wanaoendelea kufanya mbinu za kijingajinga kama hizi ambazo nimezisema, kwamba papai nalo lina corona, kwale ana corona, mbuzi ana corona, ni lazima katika scientific approaches watu lazima wafanye kazi. Ni waombe wataalamu wetu, vyuo vikuu, Sokoine, University of Dar es Salaam, vyuo vyote, NEMRI na kadhalika, huu ndio wakati wa kufanya kazi na kuonyesha integrity zenu za kufanya research kwa sasa. Sina uhakika sana na mkuu wa maabara hii kama nafahamu, kwa sababu hata tulipokuwa tunapeleka zile sample hatakumjulisha. Yeye amepima akijua ni sample za binadamu. Lakini kwa nini na yeye hakufanya trial kwenye siku za nyuma ili kujustify kile kifaa anachokitumia? Kwa hiyo kuna mambo mengi ya ovyo ovyo humu ndani.
Continuing. Other observations and impacts. Doctors and nurses are being laid off and furloughed while the mainstream claims that hospitals are busy. There are many independent journalists on the ground regularly showing video evidence of the contrary. Check out Lincoln Karim, that's K-A-R-I-M, on YouTube. He goes all over the New York City area on his bike every day showing empty hospitals, medical facilities, and funeral homes. What they're saying is going on is not going on. Also, patients in need of surgeries now have to wait due to the crisis. Virtually no one wears masks at protests. I've been to several, mainly because they're well learned on the situation. Enforcement by businesses and officers of the law for not wearing masks or not social distancing is tyrannical. The excessive quarantining has caused drastic increases in suicide, child abuse and molestation, pregnancies, spousal abuse, divorces, alcoholism and drug use, poverty, depression and stress, mental health risks, etc. Suicides and calls into suicide hotlines, for example, have skyrocketed. Another observation I had is the signers in these press briefings, they're humorously emphatic. I've seen signers over the years, never have I seen them with these facial expressions and body motions It's usually an empty room, so I don't know who they're signing to, unless the deaf don't have closed captioning on their television. Who knows? The inevitability of a second wave, or, as Bill Gates calls it, Pandemic 2. Regardless of whether said virus exists, when we go green or start the quote-unquote new normal, a spike in illness is inevitable due to everyone coming out of their Lysoled houses. It's imperative that this is understood because the media will be pointing fingers and giving unjustified reasoning when it happens. Here are some quotes, all of which are very telling in recent times. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary security deserve neither liberty nor safety. Benjamin Franklin. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Ronald Reagan. The American people don't believe anything until they see it on television. Ain't that the truth? Richard Nixon. If you tell a big lie and tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. Adolf Hitler. There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. Vladimir Lenin. When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. That's a good one. Thomas Jefferson. So, what can we do? Protest. See where and when protests are being held in your state, and participate. Do not conform or comply with tyrannical rules. Stand up for others who are shamed for disobeying tyrannical rules. We're in this together. Hand out and distribute flyers. There are links to a mask exemption flyer and 2 different fraud flyers, one by the Dollar Vigilante and one by High Impact Flicks. They're both in the description. Live your normal life, not what they want you to perceive as the new normal. Visit your loved ones, especially the elderly who are in homes. If you want to wear a mask around them, go ahead, but visit them. Turn off the telescreen, and don't solely rely on mainstream sources. Utilize other video sources such as BitChute, Library, also known as LBRY, and 153news.net. They have little to no restrictions with respect to content. Talk. Spread the word about the current deceit. Staying silent and not informing others is depriving them of truth. If they don't believe you or don't want to listen, then at least you led the horse to water. Here are some valid sources for CV information and content. There are links to all of these in the description. The Corbett Report has a website and YouTube channel. Highly recommend. The Dollar Vigilante website and YouTube channel. And some of these are also on the other sources I just mentioned. Spiroskouras YouTube channel. Dr. Andrew Kaufman website and YouTube channel. In my opinion, Kaufman is the most trusted doctor, medical source on the matter right now. I highly recommend him. I have a couple videos of interviews that he was part of that are in the description as well, in addition to links to his website and his channel. High Impact Vlogs on YouTube and highimpactflix.com, the website. Jeranism and Jeranism Raw. There are live stream discussions on YouTube every week. Jeranism does a Monday Night Raw. There's on Jeranism Raw, and then Jeranism, the regular Jeranism channel, has a show on Friday, so you think it's usually around 3 p.m., and they discuss current topics and other topics that aren't discussed in the MSM. Richie from Boston. Some consider him to be a fearmonger, but I don't think so. I feel he has good regular content, and he should be heard. He's the one who talks a lot about martial law. And John Thor, this is a YouTube channel. He does great work with video compilations. Other sources for alternative information and content. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. She's an osteopathic physician who is a known anti-vaccination activist, according to Google. Anti-vaxxers are demonized by the mainstream. Tenpenny makes many rational, valid points, and her words should be heard, regardless of what MSM tells you. Watch some of her recent videos and judge for yourself. There's a link to one of these videos in my description. David Icke. There are 3 great recent interviews from London Real, the Rose Icke series. All have been removed by YouTube. These interviews have great content. Icke is considered a conspiracy theorist, but he's very knowledgeable and has many good views and opinions. There's a link to Rose Icke 3 in the description. Dr. Buttar. Buttar's London Real interview, Rose Buttar, was decent, but I do not recommend him. I and many other truthers consider him to be a shill due to his affiliation with the Desiree Jennings hoax on Inside Edition some years back. Dr. Shiva. Shiva also has some good content and opinions, but I cannot recommend him either. He's on shill alert. Infowars and Band.video have decent content from time to time, but I do not recommend them. I feel they and Alex Jones are controlled opposition. We're getting close to the end here, but before I send you on your way, I'd like to read you some of an article by James Corbett of the Corbett Report titled, "A Letter to the Future." The darkness is descending. Let there be no mistake, we all know this. We know what it means when 17 million Americans, a full 10% of the workforce, are added to the unemployment rolls in a mere 3 weeks. When they are joined by millions more newly unemployed ex-workers all around the globe. When modern-day bread lines stretch for miles in the heart of America's once proud cities. When the phony baloney, fiat funny money debt rises over 24 trillion and the Fed's Sovietization of the economy is complete. We know what it means when police start shooting people dead for not wearing a mask. When drones police quarantines from the sky and robot police lockdowns on the ground. When governments admit to tracking every movement of every citizen and begin internal checkpoints where digital immunity passports determine who may pass and who must stay in their home. We know what it means when billionaires start telling us that their new experimental mRNA vaccines will be able to release us from this nightmare. When they threaten to mark us with invisible ink tattoos to ID the vaccinated. When they tell us that we will not be able to buy or sell or participate in the economy until we can prove our immunity. It means the Corona World Order has arrived. Oh sure, some still deny it, but they are only fooling themselves. They're afraid to admit that it's true. Many are still under the old conditioning that told them to bleat conspiracy theorist at anyone questioning authority. We have a name for that kind, sheep, or sometimes sheeple. The masses in our day are kept in the pen by jackbooted sheepdogs of the police state, and led along by the political puppets who act as their shutbirds. Occasionally a wise old-timer in the flock cottons on to the game. But the shepherd has only ever fleeced the flock before, so he resigns himself to his fate. Why struggle? It's mostly painless. Never did the sheeple suspect that someday the shepherds would lead them to the slaughter. It is a term of derision, of course, sheeple, but I like to think that it doesn't just speak to our stupidity. It speaks to our naivety and innocence. We are trusting and gentle creatures by nature, peaceful, cooperative. This is nothing to be scorned. If it weren't for the predators in our midst, our failings could even be counted as virtues. But I am not here to say that. I am here to say this. Resist. Struggle. Fight. You are not cogs in a machine, despite what the shepherds of your day may be telling you. You are free and beautiful human beings. You are not born under the authority of another. You choose how to live your life, not some bureaucrat, not some police robot, not some immunity checkpoint algorithm or QR code. You do not need permission to buy, or sell, or to assemble, or to speak your mind, or to leave your house. You are not an asymptomatic carrier of whatever virus your misleaders are telling you to be afraid of. You do not have to shelter in place because someone in a white lab coat told you to. I want you to understand that, once upon a time, the government didn't have the right to know where you were, who you were with, what you were buying, and what you were doing 24/7. Hell, the government didn't even have the ability to do that. I need you to know that there was a time when you could leave your house when you wanted, travel where you wanted, buy and sell as you saw fit, meet your neighbors, rally, protest, party, live, as free human beings are meant to live. Oh, what am I saying? These words, this language, it makes no sense to you anymore, does it? These concepts don't exist in your time, do they? You go where you are told to go. You stay home when you're told to stay home. You shut up when you were told to shut up. You think when you were told to think. I can't blame you after all. You're trusting and naive and peaceful, like a sheep. But oh, how I weep for what you have become. I tried to avert it. Please believe me. I really tried. But the lamp of liberty is being extinguished, and I am bearing witness. To my children, or my children's children, or whatever remnant of once free humanity happens to unearth these words in that God-forsaken future we are goose-stepping into, I'm sorry I failed you. We all failed you. But remember this, as long as the blood of your forebears flows through your veins, the lamp of human freedom shall not be extinguished forever. Let it shine, dear sheep. Let it shine. Closing, I am neither a Republican nor a Democrat. I am an American citizen seeking truth. We have natural and constitutional rights, and I will continue to fight for your rights regardless of your opinion. Until next time, be happy, live normal, and may the truth set you free.